So Dave Ramsey will tell you that you should pay off your 3% mortgage, your 4% mortgage, to be debt free. Even if you can otherwise get, say, a 5% rate elsewhere or a 6% rate elsewhere on that money that you otherwise can invest rather than paying off the mortgage. Forgo that arbitrage, as we will call it, and pay off that mortgage, because nothing is more important than being debt free. To say that this is mathematically imperfect is an understatement, right? Now, let me back up. First of all, yes, nobody has helped Dave Ramsey. I certainly haven't helped the thousands of people that Dave Ramsey has across the country getting debt-free and all that good stuff, right? He's helped millions of people. I get that. But we just got to be aware that his information is imperfect in order to appeal to the masses. For instance, if I called in, I, who am very good with debt, I believe there is good debt and there's bad debt. I have a credit score of 830, 840, whatever it is, right? But yet if I called into Dave Ramsey, say 20 years ago, and said, Dave, I have $500,000 balance on my mortgage. I also have $500,000 in investments over here, right? Should I take that $500,000 and pay off my mortgage that's only costing me whatever, 4%? What would he have told me? He would have told me to pay off my mortgage, to be debt free, to pay off that 4% mortgage. Doesn't matter that over here I could get, well, what did I get? Well, 8, 9, 10% over that period of time in the stock market, right? Huge arbitrage. But he would still tell me, now, granted, you can't bank on the market always doing 8, 9, 10%. But today you can get a guaranteed rate of anywhere from 5% to 6% on a investment, right? So the arbitrage story is still there, although maybe not to the extent that I'm talking about. He would have said, no, take that 500 grand, forget your 8, 9, 10%, put it over here, pay off the mortgage, just so you're not paying that 4% interest. To say that's mathematically imperfect is an understatement. But he has to assume I'm an idiot, right? He has to assume that I cannot manage that $2,000 per month payment, for instance. And I just disagree with that overall. Now, here's the common response and some numbers that I want to show you here. The common response from people that the Dave Ramsey-ites is this. Well, but Charlie, but then you would have more money freed up, say $2,000 a month, that you would otherwise pay against your mortgage, that you can now invest. And over time, it will come out better than if you otherwise kept your $500,000 invested over here and paid off and not paid off that mortgage over here. You'd come out better by paying off the mortgage and putting $2,000 a month into this over here. No, that's not how money works. It all comes down to what is the rate here versus what is the rate there. That's what it all comes down to. That it would be absolutely equal if both rates were the exact same. This is the way that time value of money works. If the rate is higher over here, mathematics and science, no, not behavioral finance and all that stuff, which is very important, but mathematics and science will tell you that you will have more value by staying invested over here than by paying off this mortgage. I have numbers that I put together. So here's an example, $300,000 mortgage over here that I'm just assuming. We have a 30-year amortization schedule. So that goes out for 360 months, and that mortgage is going to cost us 4%. In order for that mortgage to zero out over that period of time, my financial calculator tells us $1,428 is our monthly payment that we would have to pay for that mortgage. Over here on the right, I say, let's just assume that we can get an investment that pays, say, 6% per year. And let's say that we're putting $1,000 a month into it. Doesn't really matter what we're putting into it now. This is just the base case. The base case is, here is your mortgage, 4%. Here is the investment that you otherwise can get, 6%. So let's say that we're 15 years into our mortgage. And we call into Dave Ramsey and say, hey, let's go down to month 180, which is, well, 15 years here. So month 179, we call in and say, hey, Dave, we have come across some money here. We have almost $200,000. We have $195,449, which is the mortgage balance. And what do? Do we invest that into this over here where we can get 6%, or do we zero out our mortgage balance? What is Dave Ramsey going to tell us to do? He's going to say, pay off that mortgage balance, zero it out. So that's what we did. We pay this $195,000. So miraculously, all of our payments, all of our mortgage balance, all that for all the years forward, it's zero, right? It's zeroed out. But again, what he would now say is, hey, but here's the good news. Now, instead of putting away $1,000 per month, you could put away $2,428. Why? Because we're adding what we otherwise would have needed to pay against the mortgage to this. So now you're investing more, which means your balance is going to be great at the end of the 30-year period of time. All right, so let's do that. So now we're putting away $2,428 in something that pays us 6%. And what is the balance at the end? $1,430,000. So your total wealth among these two, the debt as well as the investments, your total wealth among these two items is $1,430,000. Obviously, zero mortgage. The investment balance is $1,430,000. Now, what happens when we do the other thing? The thing that I would do, the thing that I did do, the thing that I recommend folks do, because it's not rocket science. If you have an interest rate that's higher than your debt, then maybe don't be so concerned about the debt, assuming you're not an idiot and can handle debt, right? So now we have the scenario to where we are 15 years into our mortgage here, 15 years into our mortgage. So let's go to month 179 here. So we're 15 years into our mortgage and we have $195,449. So the same deal. Do we zero out our mortgage as Dave Ramsey tells us to? We say, no, Dave, I ain't zeroing out my mortgage. Why? Because I think I'm smart enough as an adult human being to be able to pay $1,428 per month responsibly into perpetuity. And as a matter of fact, if I can have 3% or 4% money, hell, I would want that forever. Can I get a 200-year mortgage? After all, this is what banks do. They lend money at a higher rate and they borrow money at a lower rate. That's how banks can afford these giant buildings, right? All right, but I digress there. So instead of paying the $195, what we're going to do is we're just going to dump that $195 plus our $1,000 that we're putting in a month anyway into that investment that's going to give us roughly, well, not roughly, but a 6% return in this hypothetical example here. What is the balance at the end of this 30-year period of time? $1,491,000. $1,491,000 versus Dave's way, which would have been $1,430,000. So by listening to him over that period of time, we would have lost, what, $61,000 or so? So you might be asking the question, okay, when do both of these come out the same? When do they both come out the same? It's when both of these rates, the mortgage rate and the investment rate are the same. So let's put the investment rate at 0.04%. So 0.04% right there. How much wealth do you have at the end? $1,053,000. Let's go to the scenario where you pay off the mortgage. 0.04%. 1 million, basically a rounding error. That's how money works. It all comes down to what is the rate here versus what is the rate there. Well, but you have more money to invest if you pay off the mortgage. Doesn't matter. It's all about what each dollar is earning and what each dollar you are paying interest on. That's all it comes down to. Hope this video helped, folks. Give me a thumbs up as well as a subscribe if you want more videos like this.